Remember this IO Volare, an IEM which I reviewed a few months ago, which I declared as the end game for 2024. And you want to know what? Now we also have another IEM from IO, which is the Sogno. If you were to look at them side by side like this, almost identical. So you might be wondering what's the differences between these two. Want to find out? So let's join me and find out. Before we talk about the comparison of IO, Volare and Sogno, let's just talk about what are the contents that you get from this Sogno here. Priced at $399 US. It is slightly cheaper than the Volare, which is priced at $599. But what you're gonna get essentially is something which is very similar in many ways. This Sogno is 8 drivers hybrid, which means that it contains 6 balanced amateur and 2 dynamic driver configuration. As you can clearly see here, compared side by side with Volare, it is pretty much almost identical in every way, except that there's some subtle differences in the design itself, but it is still made of high quality hard resin. I would even say that the cable itself is pretty much very similar, except that it employs a different kind of braiding. And of course, you're gonna get also similar type of detachable plugs, at which you're gonna get 3 type being provided inside the box, which is the 4.4mm balance, 3.5mm single-ended, and also the older 2.5mm balance. Just like Volare, Sogno also comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 5. 5 different tips. Number 5 being my favorite, which is the foam tips. For the last half an hour, I have been walking alongside this very beautiful beach that you see here to test 2 things, the comfort factor and the seal factor. And let's just talk about the comfort factor first. As you would notice, this Sogno, just like Volare, is a huge IEM, okay? It is big. So just put that into your consideration if you're considering getting this Sogno, because just like Volare, upon closer inspection, you would notice that at the back of this IEM, it has that big bulge that can cause a bit of discomfort if you were to wear it, let's say, over the period of 1 hour. It depends on ear shape as well. So I would say that the comfort factor is just fairly okay. But the good thing is that being this big, and also if you use foam tip, the seal factor is really good on this Sogno. You might have seen my review on this Volare, and you might remember that it was literally the lowest impedance rating which I have ever seen in any IEM, rated at just probably under 3 ohm, if I recall correctly, 2.8 ohm with the sensitivity of 121 dB. Crazily sensitive and low impedance. So it means that this Volare was super easy to drive. And you want to know what? This Sogno is rated higher with the impedance rating at 11 ohm, which is the one that I measured correctly. It was advertised as 12 ohm, but the sensitivity is even higher at 126 dB. So how does that translate into actual usage? You see here, I have been using these 2 IEM, comparing them side by side, mostly using my iBasso DX260 here. I was able to get proper listening loudness at around 43 to 46 out of 100 for this Sogno. And in comparison, I was so surprised that this Volare, which is supposed to be lower in impedance rating, needed slightly higher at around 56, almost like 10 steps higher in order to achieve similar level of loudness. So just remember this, if you want something which is even easier to drive straight out of your phone, like this my Sony Xperia 1 Mark IV here, then definitely Sogno is a better option. Finally, let's talk about the most important subject, sound and performance. How does this IO Volare compares with this IO Sogno? And you might already know that I/O Volare is something which I declare as the end game for 2024. And until now, I still believe it is definitely one of the top tier IEM that you can buy this year 2024 if you're looking for something which is very well tuned. Can I say the same thing for Sogno? Yes, pretty much very similar in many ways, except that there are some differences. And the first differences would be the tuning itself, where this Volare is something which I would consider as a bit of Harman-ish flavoring with the tuning itself. Not quite Harman, but very mild. I find the tuning itself to be kind of like really well balanced between analytical and musical with the kind of timbre balance which I would consider as pretty much similar to Sennheiser HD 600. While this Sogno here, okay, pay attention to this. It has that similar kind of very well balanced tuning, but it is in fact to my ears sounding a bit more of a mild, very mild V sound curve. And it does offer the kind of lower frequency which is not so harmonish as compared to this Volare here, which means that you can expect this Sogno to offer a bit of, let's say, flatter frequency response when it comes to lower frequency from mid-bass to sub-bass. So if you love sub-bass, if you love something which is closer to Harman target, perhaps you would definitely still consider Volare over Sogno. But if you want something which is a bit more neutral, a bit more transparent with the lower frequency, then you would consider Sogno over Volare. And when it comes to the timbre itself, I think this is one of the major differences between these two. Timbre, presentation. When it comes to timbre and tonality, I will admit that throughout my testing between these two, I have found that Volare is the one which I would consider as closer to natural organic sound as compared to the more technical sound of this Sogno here. And it is in fact because of the nature of it, kind of a bit, edge closer towards being neutral and transparent. It is more suited for monitoring and accuracy kind of work. But if you want musical indulgence, then I would say that Volare perhaps would be the one still to go for. Both of them would offer the kind of strength and weaknesses. Not so much on weaknesses, because I do not find any kind of particular weaknesses that I would say. Because if you are sensitive to upper frequency, then you might find Sogno kind of a bit more energetic as compared to this Volare. And it is more appealing to people who prefer something which is edging closer towards being safe tuned. And when it comes to the mid-range and the upper frequency, both of them are pretty much very good with the way they render the resolution, the imaging, the speed, the transient of the dynamic itself is pretty much, I would say, top tier. Do you want something which is a bit more balanced towards being, musical rather than analytical? Then I would say Volare. But if you need something which is a bit more technical rather than musical, then Sogno is the one to go for. Hey, wait. I haven't touched on this yet. Soundstage and spatial presentation. Yes, that is very important. How can I forget that? Perhaps because I'm just so mesmerized by this beach. Alright, let's just go back to that. Soundstage. I would say that between these two, alright, this Sogno seemingly a bit not as wide and open sounding as this Volare, because I do feel that this Volare offer a bit more of openness and airiness to the soundstage itself. Perhaps this is what you get by paying a bit more in comparison to this Sogno. But what you do get in return, okay, this Sogno is more holographic than this Volare. So which means that if you are into gaming, if you are into this kind of, let's say, surround sound kind of thing, then Sogno would be more suitable for you instead of this Volare. Okay, now I'm done. Thank you, and don't forget to like and subscribe.